Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The playoffs are just about to get back underway around the world, but that does not mean that roster drama isn't already going down. Derke reveals a few things on what's going to happen to Vitality next year, and based on what he says, there is no chance that team is staying the same, and maybe he will be finding his way out the door as well. Some other drama elsewhere. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Here's Demon1 with a pretty disgusting 1 versus 5 here in Pro City on the binds. Pro City's been saving Valorant, not gonna lie, as of late. A few other spicy things to get into as well. Thought this is pretty funny here. Cortasia getting ready to go because of course these guys got the job done. They helped them there into the World Championship, and Sentinels G2, here's Cortasia getting ready for the big mission. So made in Brazil, they made it. We know that it's NRG and Cloud9, the final 2 teams fighting for that final qualification spot. Now there was also a game yesterday, a big one at that, in the Challengers side. So Envy played the Qubit Academy, and this was actually a banger game. More of a banger than I think we expected after the map 1, because the map 1 Sunset was a 13-1 absolute demolition job. You got Baby J, also known as Inspire, topping up in terms of ACS here, in terms of rating on the Cypher. We know that this guy absolute demon on the Sentinel, but yeah, Kane Zera, Eggster, Poppin, Ion, they just destroyed them game 1, but on the game 2, they bounced back on the Haven Qubit Academy. They took a 13-9 win. I think Nismo's been really impressive lately as well. It'd be great to see him finally win Ascension this year, it really would. But of course, Qubit, they can't really ascend because they are the Sentinels Academy, so it's not really going to work out, but still they can find themselves good opportunities here. So Envy go down on the game 2, and then the Lotus, they eventually win in a crazy overtime, right? I mean, a 15-13, it went all the way down to the wire in the end. They took a solid 8-4 lead on the first half. They then fought back with final 2 rounds to even take it to an overtime. And yeah, Ion, I think honestly all these guys really impressive. It was kind of cool to see like Kane Zero didn't have his best series at all. I mean, we're kind of used to seeing Kane Zero just absolutely crush it, but no, Ion was on point. I think Ion though is not old enough to be playing next year, so whatever happens, if Envy win Ascension, they won't be able to play. Knights did a pretty good job on the other side of things as well on that final map there on the Omen. So this is how it looks in the Americas Challengers side. Envy do advance, they'll play QOR, and they're now going to be the favourites to win the grand finals and at least secure their spot in Ascension. Qubits, they should still be fine. I'm expecting them to still make a nice losers bracket run, but yeah, this is how it works in this stage 3 finals. If you win, you make it to Ascension guaranteed, and then you get a fight for your spot, and then after that the other teams will filter down with other qualification scenarios such as points accrued and all that type of stuff. Now in the next couple of days we're going to get the playoffs back underway. The Pacific playoffs are going to start shortly enough as well, and it does appear that all of those guys will be out there in time. It's been a big story behind the scenes over the last few days, because Patman tweets out in Japanese, and then you can see the translation, right? Good morning, everyone. So arriving out there in Tokyo, and we see here, and not only have we got Patman here from PaperX, but also X-Ray from RRQ, who's also going to be there, it seems, in time. So there was also talk of the last couple of days because these guys were looking to get their visas sorted for the Schengen zone so they can go to Paris and play at the World Championship. Now, they did not want to leave and go to Tokyo and go to Japan before they got that sorted, because otherwise it would potentially scupper their whole visa application to make sure they can go to Champions. So there did seem to be a very realistic possibility over the last few days that both Patmen and also the RRQ guys were not able to play with their full roster, which might have allowed Talon Esports to make the dramatic run all the way through and win the whole thing. Maybe they still will, but the point is that Patmen's made it out there. PaperX are going to be playing it with their full iteration. And it seems the same might be true for RRQ as well, which, you know, we thought that Talon might get an easier time of things if RRQ weren't able to play with their full team, but we now think RRQ probably will have their full team, and as a result, Talon will have theoretically a harder time. If they win, they still make it to the World Championship. If they lose, DRX make it instead. It's T1, it's RRQ, and it's PaperX, the other representatives right now from the Pacific region. Now, speaking of Talon, the last couple of days you guys have been following all of this $1 million loan situation, right? So this crypto guy lent Talon Esports $1 million. They then paid him back, but without the interest after a very long time period. And he said that they borrowed from others to pay him back, and it's an absolute mess, really. So, and he's been leaking everything on the timeline, by the way. We'll see it in a second. Talon say, we acknowledge the recent allegations around our financial situation. Talon regards matters of governance seriously, and we are committed to addressing them in a responsible and transparent manner. While our operations remain stable, and in the interest of transparency, we would like to acknowledge that there have been unforeseen administrative delays in prize pool distributions. We recognize this may cause distress among our players, and we have taken active steps to resolve this. So, I mean, here we go, right? It's all just corporate speak jargon, isn't it? That means nothing. All outstanding payments will be processed to all former players by the 6th of September and to current players by the 30th of September. We regret the delay and apologize to our players. So, well, we would like to reiterate that our commitment to player welfare is unwavering, and to that end, all player salaries have to date been paid in full. In address our time-lapse of our financial operations, we are working closely with our legal and financial advisors, aka ChatGPT, to ensure this matter is addressed based on evidence and due process. Our responsibility to our players, fans, partners, and the broader community is of utmost importance. So basically, they're coming out and saying, please, Riot, it's okay. Don't listen to the naysayers. We're fine. And they're saying, no, we are paying our players on time, their salaries. They're not necessarily paying them their prize winnings on time, which is kind of interesting. Maybe one of the reasons they had to borrow that $1 million they've now had to pay back. Who are they going to borrow from next to make these payments? I don't know. The point is that Talon might be Bleed Esports 2.0, and Hedgehog decided, you know what? He didn't sign any sort of confidentiality clause with the CEO of Talon when he made the $1 million loan. So he just put everything out there. I'm not going to go through every single post here, but I am just going to quickly scroll down. If you guys want to pause, if you want to read, you can feel free to do so. But he goes through and says, like, the original $1 million loan, 5% per annum, that was the rate. He was talking on July the 3rd to the CEO. About a week later, this is what was going on. And there was, well, I mean, the CEO described it as a miscommunication. But if you look through all this, it feels like there wasn't, you know, the communication wasn't exactly fully clear from both parties, but the guy, if he says boss one more time, I mean, like, I'm just going to lose the plot. So anyway, Sean reminds him that there's a personal guarantee. He'll ask his dad, if anything. So I don't really buy the idea that they weren't really aware that this money needed to get paid back. I also don't really understand why Hedgehog would loan to a guy, especially not loan $1 million to a guy who, I mean, maybe he did have some respect and trust for him before this whole shenanigans, but right now it's obviously a bit of a mess. So it just keeps on going, by the way, right? Like, it keeps on going, and he, you know, it's 21 posts, 22 posts, and then we got to the present day, right? So yeah, here we go, 22 in, and at the end of the day, they paid him the $1 million back, but they owe him the money for the interest payments on it, and that's not necessarily going to arrive. And I just find this a complete clown show from top to bottom when you've got the organization saying, oh, please, we'll pay you back, just delete the tweets. And then Hedgehog is like, well, look, I didn't sign any sort of NDA here, so I'm just going to reveal all the terms of our arrangement, all the terms of the contract, and reveal why you guys have tried to take me for a fool. So anyway, that was the loan term sheet that he gave him. Then they made some changes to it over time, and the bottom line is that while Talon Esports might be out there in Tokyo trying to qualify for the World Championship, they do have a far bigger cloud currently over their head. Now, that is an important game that will determine the final qualification spot. The other spots in Europe and the Americas will also be determined this week. BBL versus Liquid, Giant X Na'Vi, Gen.G 2, Cloud9, NRG. Those are the remaining games in the other regions. And, well, we can have a look at the bracket right here because that's about to get underway again tomorrow. The other thing, though, I wanted to mention was some of these teams already eliminated, such as, let's say, Team Vitality. What are they going to do next? Because after this playoffs concludes, the teams that didn't make it to the World Championship will absolutely be considering what their roster looks like next year. And this is a big one here from Derke. So an interview here with Derke that Sheep Esports put out. And, you know, he talks about a fair few things about safe and about, you know, competing at the highest level and all this other stuff. And clearly Derke's pretty frustrated with the situation. What I did want to dive into, I appreciate it's small on the screen, but I'll read it out, was this quote right here. So he was asked the question, what happened against Na'Vi, to whom they lost, and what aspects does the team need to work on to improve and be more dominant next season? Which is a funny question, right? Because clearly this is not going to be the same roster next year, right? Like, there's absolutely no chance they turn up with the same roster. Now, we think that Derke and Les are still under contract. But who knows? Les was asked a similar question the other day, and he said, well, I am under contract. I'm looking to run out the contracts, basically, and I'm not going to intend to leave, and Brazil, it's a bit of a mess, so I don't really want to go back there, right? That's kind of what Les said. But Derke says, honestly, I'll be blunt. I rate Derke for this as well. Like, he's finished, right? He's going to say it how it is. I'll be blunt. I don't even know if we will play with the same team, which means we won't play with the same team. Everything could change. Everything will change. It's the off-season now, but by the time we start again in Jan or Feb, who knows what the roster will look like? Maybe people leave. Maybe I won't play here. Nobody knows. Our season ended and we bombed out. Something went wrong and we can't even put a finger on it. We just didn't play like we practiced. Safe came in practice, things looked great. We felt confident, beating top teams, playing really well. Once we got here, everything just fell apart. So a bit of a classic, practice not translating into match play, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Oh, your practice went well, who cares? What happened when you got to the stage? And Derke says, maybe I'm not even going to be here. Maybe the whole team's going to go. Maybe people leave. So there's a good chance, I think, that Derke's out of there. Not to say that he will be. I mean, he didn't say, like, for sure I'm gone, but you can't read that and say that he doesn't think the team's going to explode, because it will. The team will make changes. Vitality will make changes for sure. Whether that's Derke on his way out as well, you know, could he come to the Americas? I think that'd be pretty exciting, but who knows? As he says, nobody knows. Maybe I won't play here. So pretty funny, right? Especially someone who's under contract with the organization. Les didn't say this, but Derke says, oh, maybe I'm not even going to be here next year. So who knows? And from Derke's perspective, maybe everything is better than what happened most recently. I'll also share a clip just as we close out the video here from FNS. He was talking about 100 Thieves because they're also in a tricky spot. They bombed out to Cloud9, and Cloud9 might not even make it themselves. So 100T will, I think, need to do something. FNS gives his opinion to say, well, is it maybe worthwhile just sticking it out with that roster again or trying something to hope that it works? I don't really buy that idea. I think 100 Thieves have to do something similar to what Vitality are probably going to do and blow it up from the core. And, well, we'll see what 100 Thieves decide to do in due course as well. But I'd be very surprised if they run it back next year or anything on that level. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
100 Thieves rebuild? Do you rebuild, bro? Or do you just go the G2 route and just keep your roster, or like the guard route, and just keep the same roster and try to improve? Like, how many times are you gonna just rebuild and rebuild and rebuild and just hope for like something to click? You know, they're obviously pretty talented players. Would you pick anyone up or cut anyone from 100 Thieves going into next year? If there is a significantly better player that is willing to join 100 Thieves, yes. Otherwise, no. Is Demon 1 significantly better than, say, Asuna? Now, think Demon 1 and Cryo Cells on the same team. EU would be running in first. 100 Thieves Victor for Asuna? That's a potential possibility. That one I can understand a little bit more than Demon 1, because then you don't have to make too many role changes. Just duelist for duelist.